Hey, what is up, guys? Bluntguts here. This is a Watcher of Realms video. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. I really appreciate it. Lord Phineas on the screen. He is going to be coming to a banner near you starting tomorrow on Thanksgiving. He is going to be deployed on the global servers. He's a certified badass. I really do like this hero. I think he's limited, unfortunately. He's not exactly what we wanted him to be. If you have watched some of my GVG testing videos on him, you'll know that his range, it really just kind of kills his functionality, unfortunately. He could have been amazing, but he is not in GVG. But that doesn't mean that he's not really good. He's really good in a lot of different areas. I do think that because he is an Infernal, he is going to kind of bump that faction up a little bit as far as boss killing is concerned. Formerly, Infernals used to be the best boss killing faction in the entire game, and I think that they're not going to get there. They're not going to be quite as good as Nightmare units. I think Arbiters are still probably going to eclipse them, but they're going to be competitive again. I actually do use, without Phineas, obviously, a Infernal team in my Guild Boss 2 run right now, and you know, I haven't really tried to bump up my damage all that much in a while, but before everybody was doing like 400k with Kagiri, I was close to 200k on my GB2 runs, and there's plenty of really solid Infernals. Hex, Zilitu, now Phineas. They're going to be a really strong faction. So if you are still trying to get 120k on Guild Boss 2, this is a guy that can certainly help you there. There's also a bunch of other content in the game, codexes and things like that, where he is going to be relevant. So I definitely think he is worth snagging. Single target arena, I didn't mention that. He is going to be really good there. But today we are talking about boss damage. And so I've done some testing both in Guild Boss 2 and in Guild Boss 1. Guild Boss 2, I compared him to kind of the standard Nightmare team. I've got him up against Lust, Kagiri, as well as Arrogance. As far as Guild Boss 1, I primarily have an Infernal team, but really what we're looking at there is I wanted to compare him to Zilitu. So, without further ado, let's head on over to Guild Boss 1. All right, so this is the team that I did use for my Guild Boss 1 testing. Now, I wasn't trying to really produce like a 50k run or anything like that. That was not the point here. I'm trying to compare Zilitu and Phineas's damage here, and I want to compare an A5 Zilitu to Phineas at all awakening levels. So I've got multiple tests here. I will show you the stats after this. I am going to show you their gear right now so that we can compare. So Zilitu is in IR. She's also in Warlord on the left-hand side. She's got, let's see here. We can look at the attributes here. We have got 19,465 attack. She's got 337 attack speed, 317% crit damage. Remember, she does have 165% base crit damage, so it is bumped up a little bit higher as a result of her that higher base crit damage. Beyond that, rage regen, she is at 65.5%. Remember, I am on the test server right now, so this means that I don't have Pantheon bonuses active, so that is something that could be a difference here. Let's take a look at our Phineas here, who is in Soulbound Arcana. Again, Warlord on the left-hand side. Triple attack percent on all the main stats there. He is at 31,000, good God, 537 attack. He does have 360 attack speed. He does have 301% crit damage. And as far as his rage regen, only 21%. So he is a bit low on that. So that could have played a role in here. But we're just trying to establish a baseline. So I'm not really all that concerned about being an exact one-for-one. This is as close as I could get it without driving myself crazy on the test server. So we're just going to look at this and see if similar gearing levels can result in kind of, I guess, expose the damage to us, give us an idea of exactly how much or how these two units compare. So that was the goal here. In this team, I did bring in a Nye so that she could toss a bunch of burns on. Zilitu is in here as well. Or not Zilitu, excuse me. Twin Fiend is in here as well. We've also got Dolores, of course. Dolores is in her exclusive neck, so we did eliminate the RNG that way, and on top of that we do have Element in there for rage regen. I try to bring as much of a bare bones team as I possibly could. Really the only two heroes doing any significant amount of damage are going to be Zilitu and Phineas, and the burns are important here because that is going to impact Phineas's damage, but not quite as much as it normally would because the Guild Boss magic resist is so low to begin with that getting extra penetration is not really going to be a massive increase for him. So I am going to show you the run, then I'm going to take you to the spreadsheet. We're going to talk about the results that I did get. All right, let's talk through the results. Let's see if we can't get any further information about exactly how these two performed. So you will notice I've got the awakenings on the left-hand side. Those are only pertinent to Phineas. I did have Zilitu at A5 the entire time that I was running these tests. Reason being that I only have one copy of Zilitu on my test server account, so I couldn't awaken Zilitu as I awakened Phineas. However, she did provide a baseline. Zilitu did provide a baseline to compare Phineas against, and it was consistent because she was A5 the entire time. So what we see here is a gradual increase, obviously, in Phineas's damage. The other thing that is kind of notable here is that we do see a pretty significant bump up in Zilitu's damage at A3, and that is because at that point, when Phineas gets his A3, he is going to double the crit damage bonus that he does provide to infernal units, so it becomes 50% versus the 25% that it was before, so that was a pretty significant increase. Zilitu thrives off of crit damage, especially in Guild Boss 1. So that is why we see a significant spike there. What is kind of interesting, though, is that we didn't really see a big difference between, actually, there was a decrease in Phineas's average damage between A1 and A3. You know, I don't know why that was. I literally just set an auto run, and then every single one of these instances of damage that I've recorded here was based on a subsequent auto run that I did. So I did 3 auto runs per awakening level. So in any case, at A0, Phineas was at 79.91% of Zilitu's damage. At A1, he bumped that up to 92.05% of Zilitu's damage, which is pretty solid. That was an 18.24% increase over his A0 damage. Now, here's where things get weird. Like I just said, at A3, he only did 85.35% of Zilitu's damage. Now, part of that is because he's giving her a bigger crit damage buff whenever she uses her ultimate, which is huge, especially because all of her damage comes during the ultimate. So that is important to note. However, over A0, he only increased by 15.68%, which is almost 3% less than what he increased at A1. I think this is just RNG. I think it is, but I'm not going to modify the numbers and report something different to you. I think RNG has a big role to play in this game. Both of these heroes did have a Wailing Skull equipped as their main, as their artifact here. So that is obviously going to produce a bit of RNG here, and I think it's probably Wailing Skull RNG is what happened. Maybe for whatever reason, the A3 runs, he ended up just not getting as many procs, or the procs weren't as frequent. So it was what it was. But I think that goes to show you that going A1 to A3, not that important for good old Phineas here. And I think that, all we're really getting for that, for him in particular, is a 5% attack bonus at A2. His A3 benefits other Infernals. It does not benefit him. So that is important to note. At A5, we see things narrow a bit again. Now, all of a sudden, Phineas is doing 94.62% of Zilitu's damage, and he's also, over his A0, is up at 27.6%. So it's basically another 50% increase over the A1, the A1's increase, meaning another 9%. But overall, a 27.6% increase over what we saw at A0. Pretty solid. I think one other thing that I will say before I kind of move on to the Guild Boss 2 testing is that Zilitu does have a weird interaction with Twin Fiend where Zilitu will like double hit. I don't know the exact details of all of it, but I do know that she has kind of what many people have described as a bug, but it's been in the game for so long that at this point, I think it's just a feature. So, Twin Fiend and Zilitu, they've got a special thing going. Phineas tried to horn in on it, and Twin Fiend wasn't having it, and he wasn't giving him the same bonus, I guess. I don't know. But, that should be taken into account, because I think if you separate these two, I think what you're going to end up seeing is that Phineas is going to do significantly more damage than Zilitu in other situations where you don't have the ability to just consistently use Twin Fiend's ultimate over and over again. Now, I don't know that that's realistic, because more often than not, the only time that you are bringing Zilitu in would be if you were going to use Zilitu over and over, or excuse me, use Twin Fiend. But either way, I thought it was worth noting. I will have a link to this spreadsheet in the description of this video, so please do go and check that out. You can kind of see above my head on the screen right now, I do have the stats for these units all kind of set in a table there, so you can go and peruse that as well. Let's go take a look at Guild Boss 2. Guild Boss 2, baby. Let's go take a look at the APOC 2 team that I did use. I will move myself over to the left-hand side of the screen so that we can see this here. So, we have got Nightmares and Infernals. I love it. I love it because these are my two strongest factions on global. So I'm excited to hopefully get Phineas and hopefully be able to build a team kind of similar to this. I think he'll fit in quite nicely in this comp. The other thing too, I will say, versus the Guild Boss 1, Guild Boss 2 is going to showcase his skill set much better than Guild Boss 1. Guild Boss 1 has such low magic resist that the penetration aspect for Phineas does not come into play nearly as much as it does on Guild Boss 2. So I expect better results from Phineas in this kind of environment, and really on any kind of content that has high magic resist, he is going to outperform somebody like Zilitu just by virtue of the fact that he does have that penetration increase. So that is awesome. If you don't know what I'm talking about, every stack of burning on the target, he does get a 7% when fully skilled up increase to his penetration, basically meaning he can ignore 7% of the enemy's magic resist. Each instance of burning increases that by another 7%, up to 7 stacks total, meaning that at max stacks he can get 49%, almost 50% magic resist ignore, which is crazy. That is why units like Silas are so powerful in this game, because they are able to ignore basically the mitigation mechanic in this game, and that is gigantic. So the units that I do have in here, I'm not going to go through each one of their gear. They are all geared very similarly. I will say Lust is in Warlord and IR. Kagiri is in Warlord and Soulbound Arcana. Arrogance is in Warlord and Soulbound Arcana, and Phineas is in Warlord and Soulbound Arcana. Beyond that, I will also say that they are geared very, very similar. They all have between 325 and 350 attack speed. They all have, I guess it's actually 360, I believe, attack speed is the top one. I think Phineas has 360 attack speed. They all have triple attack percent pieces on the right-hand side. I tried to get as close as I could with Rage Regen. Again, I do, even on the test server, I have some limitations in what I can gear, but I tried to get them as close as possible. Let's take a look at the run. It's not going to complete because it's an auto, but it's giving you an idea of placement and exactly how the run went. And then I will meet you back on the other side for the spreadsheet. All right, guys. So here are the results, and pretty crazy, truth be told. I think you know what the biggest thing is. I did this testing for Twyla, and I didn't want to go to the trouble to really learn how to effectively use Kagiri. Now, thankfully, I had a viewer reach out and make a comment and give a very detailed post on my Twyla video. I'd encourage you all to go ahead and check that out. Big shout out to you, my man. I do appreciate you giving me that insight. You can see I use Kagiri pretty well this time, and he is doing a buttload more damage than everybody else. Oh my god, A5 Kagiri. Yeah, wow. So I did 4 different Guild Boss 2 runs here. I will note that Arrogance, Lust, and Kagiri are all A5. They were A5 the entire time. Phineas is the only one that did get ranked up over time. So I'm not trying to compare, on a per awakening basis, but how much damage relative to these overpowered A5 units is Phineas doing per awakening level? And it was pretty damn competitive, I do have to say. So at A0, Phineas accounted for 20.55% of the damage. That is awesome. He was barely behind Arrogance, a little bit behind Lust, and Kagiri just completely outclassed everybody. There was a boat race by Kagiri, doing almost 40% more damage than everybody else, basically, which is just nuts. Everybody else's damage share was in the low 20%, and Kagiri was in the mid-30s. So, yeah, we'll see that go down a little bit as the awakening levels increase because Phineas is taking up a larger share of the damage, but good God, man. Yeah, you're Kagiri. What are you even eating, man? Anyway, at A1, we do see an increase here. And so basically at A1, Kagiri essentially equals Lust. He surpasses Arrogance, and Kagiri obviously is still way ahead. Another thing I should say, especially since the actual recording of the Guild Boss 2 run did end early because the auto was not able to go past like 35k mech parts or something like that. I'm not looking at it right now, so I don't know the exact number, but it didn't go very far. I will say that I did stop each one of these runs after 3 overdrives. So I went through the third, or I guess it was the 4th poison phase, and then I stopped. So that is where these numbers come from. Typically, we were ending up somewhere around 90,000 mech parts on each of these runs. So that is where we're coming at from this. So in any case, Kagiri is a badass. I don't know why I was talking about Kagiri. I meant to talk about Phineas, but in any case, Phineas was very, very slightly about 1 million damage behind A5 Lust at A1. And that is A1 is a big awakening for him. So that is key to note there. Now at A3, he actually surpassed her. He was well above Arrogance by about 23 million damage. He was about 6 million damage over Lust. And Kagiri, he cut into Kagiri's lead a little bit. Kagiri at A0 was doing 34.67%. At A1 was doing about 34%. Only 32.5% when Lord Phineas was at A3, and Lord Phineas was at 23.5%, so about another 1% damage share increase for the A3. And then finally at A5, we see that gap narrow yet again, and that is a 20% approximately damage share for Arrogance, about a 22% damage share for Lust. Kagiri still damn strong at almost 33% of the damage share, but Lord Phineas taking up more weight, 222 million damage, which was a, let's see, what is that? 24 plus 22 is 46 million damage increase over his A0 contribution, putting him at 24.57% of the damage. Now, the reason that I'm talking about damage share here, if you haven't watched some of my previous videos where I've compared these kinds of, I've done these kinds of breakdowns, I guess I should say. The reason that I'm talking about damage share versus total damage, or I'm emphasizing that versus total damage, is because when you stop the run after, in this case, the 3rd overdrive phase, so after the 4th poison phase, basically, each one of those phases that you had to get through to get to that point has a set amount of health that the boss you have to burn through. There is very little variation there. That's why you don't see a big variation in these numbers here. At A0, the damage, despite the fact that Kagiri was doing significantly more damage, was 860 million. However, total damage at A5 was only 900 million. And so that 40 million or 42 million difference right there is the extra damage that was done in the damage boost phases, basically between the different, in between the poison phase and the axe phase or whatever it is, the chainsaw phase at the beginning, or between the chainsaw phase and the Aegis phase, that kind of thing. So very, very interesting. Now, on this same tab in the spreadsheet, I do have the stats for all of the units all the damage units anyway, that were used in this run. So you again can go peruse that again. The link to this spreadsheet will be in the description of this video. Beyond that, I did break down the damage increase that Phineas did see awakening over awakening here. So basically going from A0 to A1 was a 13.4% increase. Going from A0 to A3 was a 18.86% increase, which also was about a 34 million damage increase. And then going from A0 to A5 was a 25.44% damage increase for Phineas. And that was actually a 46 million damage increase overall in this run. So that is how that broke down. It has been a tough couple of weeks for Watcher of Realms and that whole summoning issue. I'm not here to tell you to spend, but I do know that some of you are going to be spending over the Thanksgiving holiday, Black Friday. You are going to be buying W Gold, trying to get Lord Phineas, maybe Magda, maybe you want to go for the Nascent. if you are planning to do so, definitely recommend that you buy your W Gold through Smile1, the official third-party payment platform for Watcher of Realms. Smile1, if you use the exclusive link in the description of this video, they are going to give you a 10% discount on your W Gold purchase. On top of that, if you do top up your W Gold between November 22nd and November 29th, they will give you special top-up rewards based on the amount that you do purchase. They are to the right of me on the screen right now. So, again, I am not telling anybody that they should spend, but I am telling you that if you are going to spend, don't spend more than you have to. Follow the link in the description. Let's get back to the video. So I thought a good way to close this out would be go back here, look at his awakenings real quick, so we can just talk through why we saw the increases that we did. So at A1, he does get an increase to the base chance of Blade of Treachery by 5%. And Blade of Treachery can now inflict burning. Now, burning is going to give him magic resist, ignore, so that is super important. Obviously, the more stacks of burning he can get on the target, the more of the enemy's magic resist he is going to ignore. That Blade of Treachery is kind of a proc-based ability. It is a 25% chance base, 30% with the A1, and it also doubles the chance during the ultimate, meaning that it is now a 60% chance during the ultimate at A1 to get Blade of Treachery, which I believe is an extra 270% damage when fully skilled up. It also stuns the target, so that does help out in Guild Wars 2 as well, so that is very important. A2 is a 5% attack increase, which is really, really nice because his base attack is so goddamn high. I believe it's the third highest in the game, despite earlier reports that it was the second. I was I was corrected on that in the comments earlier, so thank you to whoever it was that shouted me out there. I do appreciate you you keeping me honest. And then finally, or not finally, but next up is the A3. When an Infernal Blast ally uses their ultimate, the talent switches to granting crit damage increase to them. And so this is why we saw an increase to Zilitu's damage at A3, because the crit damage increase goes from 25% base to 50% for 20 seconds. Whenever an Infernal ally does use their ultimate, they get a buff from him. So that is why I kind of compare him to Lust, because he is not just a crazy damage dealer, but he is also a damage enhancer for all of his faction allies, which is great. And then the A4, 8% penetration. Again, that goes really well with his already pretty staggering ability to ignore enemy magic resist. If you can stack a bunch of burning on the target, he is going to really, really shine. That's been my experience. That is something that I could have done if I was really trying to showcase his damage in Guild Wars 2. I could have tried to build a team that probably would have been worse overall, but would have had more burning in it, would have boosted his damage quite a bit more. I like to produce what I would call more realistic damage here. This is not supposed to be, how much damage can I squeeze out of this guy? I want to give you an idea of what he's going to look like in practical use, and I don't think that constructing an entire team around him really makes a whole lot of sense. Maybe someday, if we get enough units that are like S tier that have burning on them, that might make sense, but right now I don't think it does. And then at A5, after the ultimate ends, 50% chance to retain Viscount's Flame. And Viscount's Flame, each stack does increase crit damage by 25%. Again, when he uses the ultimate, this doubles. So it stacks up to 5, meaning that outside the ultimate, it can stack up to 125%. In the ultimate, it can stack up to 250%. And then typically, when the ultimate ends, that goes away. Now with the A5, you have a 50% chance to retain those stacks, meaning that you could potentially end the ultimate, and half the time you will go into the time in between the next ultimate and the previous one with a 125% crit damage bonus. So that is important to note. In any case, guys, I do hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative. We've got him coming out tomorrow. I'm super excited about it. I think he's going to be a great hero. I want to get at least a copy of him. I'd love to get him A1. I think if I get him A1, that's where I'm going to stop. I'm not going to go any further with that. He is 100% worth pulling for, I think. Unfortunately, I do think he is limited. I would encourage you to go check out my GBG testing video. I don't think that he's going to be a force in GBG. At least not in a way that I can see anyway. It's going to be like a very kind of like niche uses if he is. So, and I would argue that if that's the case, then he's not really going to be a force, right? So, in any case, guys, I do appreciate you tuning in. Please do like and subscribe if you did enjoy this video. I will catch you all next time.